The following program is brought to you by Naleo TV, the People's Platform.
My name is Jing Jing Tsong, and I'm a children's book illustrator, and I just wrote a book that just came out called Fake Chinese Sounds, a graphic novel. I've been doing this for about 10 years, and I'm really excited to be here at Kona Stories because this is where I had my first event for my picture book, Bucket of Blessings. And it was so fun to share that event with my husband, Mike.
You are watching Island Storybook.
Aloha, I'm Jing Jing Tsong, and I'm a children's book illustrator and a writer. And I'm really happy that you're here with me today. I'm going to share the two newest books in the Hawaiian Legends for Little Ones series, Leia, Goddess of Canoe Builders, and Kaiona, Guides the Lost. These are both mo'olelo, retold by Gabrielle Ahuli'i, and I'm really honored to be the illustrator for this series. Gabrielle has done a lot of research in these retellings of Hawaiian myths, and I think these stories about gods and goddesses are really important for people not only who live in Hawaii, but for people visiting Hawaii to understand the long history and traditions and the culture that are still very relevant and important to our community today. When I work on a picture book, I do a lot of research. So with these two books, I like to include a lot of Hawaiian endemic flora and fauna. And so I will go on hikes and take pictures of plants. I will do research on the birds and the animals and which parts of the island that they thrive in. I will do research on the symbolic meaning of the plants, and also for Leia, Goddess of Canoe Builders, it was really important for me to research Hawaiian kapa design and Hawaiian tattoo design so that every little detail is as true as it can be. And I want to honor the stories by, doing the work to make the visuals tell the story truthfully visually. Now I'm going to read to you from Leia, Goddess of Canoe Builders by Gabrielle Ahuli'i and illustrated by me. On a small island in the middle of the ocean, there was a forest. The forest was quiet at night, but daylight would fill the forest with the bright and musical songs of birds. The forest was home to many trees and birds, and was also the home of the goddess Leia. Leia could transform into a bird herself, a lively, chattering elepaio who could soar over coasts and dart through the branches of the koa trees. At the edge of this forest, there lived a canoe carver. His job was to find the koa trees that were so tall they greeted the sky, and so strong and wide that they seemed like part of the land itself. One night, he dreamed of a tree so tall and strong, it could surely become a proud canoe that could carry his people over the vast sea. On a clear, still morning, Leia was flying through the forest when she saw the canoe carver climbing his way up the mountain. She had often seen the carver at work and delighted in watching his canoes launch from her favorite shores. She followed the carver as he zigzagged up and down the mountain. When he stopped to inspect a tree, Leah landed and pecked the tree to show the carver that this tree was not the one he had dreamed of. Its trunk was home to insects, and its wood was soft. She followed the carver through the forest, inspecting many trees until they came upon a majestic koa tree. This tree was truly special, and Leah knew that the carver would treat the tree respectfully and transform it into a beautiful and worthy canoe. Leah landed on the tree, and to signal to the carver that this tree was sound and steady, hopped up and down the trunk without stopping. The carver, knowing that the goddess Leah was helping him, offered both her and the tree an oli in thanks. That afternoon, the tree was brought down the hill by the carver and his community. Leah watched for months as the carver turned the tree into a canoe and flew alongside the canoe on its first voyage into the sea. This is Leah, goddess of canoe builders. I hope you enjoyed this story. Now I'm going to read to you Kaiona Guides the Lost by Gabrielle Ahuli'i and illustrated by me. On a small island in the middle of the ocean, there was a mountain called Ka'ala. Shrouded in rain clouds and warmed by the sun, the goddess Kaiona lived there with the ferns, trees, and birds as her companions. Kaiona loved her birds the most. Sitting in her grove of ohai, she would talk and sing with the iwa, o'o, and apapane. Kaiona had a compassionate and protective heart. The sun loved her so much that it would follow her through the rain and mist. The mountain Ka'ala was unpredictable. One moment calm and still, the next shrouded in a creeping mist or hammered by chilling rain. Gatherers and travelers walking among its many trees and ferns would sometimes get caught in a sudden downpour so thick they would lose their way in the forest. Kaiona was always nearby. Her careful ears could always hear the footsteps of others through her mountain paths, and her watchful spirit helped to protect them. One day, a young boy found himself lost while gathering hapu'u ferns for his mother. Kaiona heard his cries and called to her favorite friend, an iwa bird. She whispered to the bird the path home for the boy, and the iwa took off, powerful and silent. When the boy heard the faint rustle of feathers in the air, he looked up and saw black wings against the white clouds. The iwa circled overhead. The boy knew that Kaiona was there to guide him home, and so he followed the iwa. After guiding the boy home, the iwa returned to its place next to Kaiona, who was waiting in her ohai grove. The boy learned that day that the people of Hawaii will always be able to follow the birds of Kaiona home. And that's the story of Kaiona Guides the Lost. Thanks for being here with me to share it. Why is reading important to me? Reading's important to me because I learn about myself by reading stories about other people and other cultures. Like, I realize that we have a lot more in common than we have differences. And that makes me feel more connected to people in my community I may not know. It gives me more understanding. And reading is just fun. Like, I learned how to do a front flip off the diving board by reading a book about how to do it. And I learned how to bake cookies, and I learned how to grow vegetables. So reading is like not only about learning, but it's about having fun and discovering and just holding a book that's beautiful is just a treat in itself. And that's why I think reading is important. Why am I an illustrator and how did I get into it? You know, I always loved picture books and I read them when I was really way too old. Well, there's no such thing as being too old to read a picture book. So I just thought, man, I want to do this. Like, I think I can tell a story. I think I see like lots of images when I'm reading stories. And so I just started making pretend books to share with my friends. And then when I became an adult, I made a real book and I tried to, I showed different people my real book and that one didn't sell, but I did find an agent who then connected me with some authors and it was like a dream come true. Then I got to illustrate a real book for the first time. And that book was A Bucket of Blessings by Kabir Segal and Sarishta Segal. And in fact, I had my first book event here at Kona Stories celebrating that book. So I'm really appreciative to Brenda and Joy for that opportunity. But if you're interested in illustrating or writing a book, you should try. I think we all have stories to tell. So if you want to become an illustrator or a writer, everyone has a story to tell, and you can tell it just by, it doesn't have to be a big important story, it could just be something from your life, and that's really interesting and important, and it's important for all of us to share our own stories. So I really encourage you to start writing and to start drawing and to start sharing. I always tell young writers and artists that they have stories to tell. And when I decided I wanted to write a book by myself instead of just illustrating, I wrote a book that's based on my childhood called Fake Chinese Sounds. And it's about how I met my nai from Taiwan for the first time and about the bullying that I encountered as a middle grader and how I dealt with it. And it turned into this whole graphic novel that is not completely about my life, but it has a lot of details from my life. And so I really encourage you to explore what stories you have in your own life that you'd like to share. And maybe one day you'll have a graphic novel like I do. Mahalo for joining me with Island Storybook. And I'm so excited and happy that you were here to share these stories, Kaiona Guides the Lost and Leia, Goddess of Canoe Builders. I hope you'll go find a new favorite book.
Special mahalo to those in our community who support literacy here on Hawaii Island. Naleo TV wants to encourage reading and writing in an ever-changing digital world. Reading is a fundamental skill that opens up a world of knowledge, imagination, and personal growth. Mahalo for tuning in to this episode of Island Storybook. Check out our website, naleo.tv, for more videos on demand and get ready for the next story we find.